Hello, it's Flex and you're watching Build Series Sydney. Today I'm joined by a very exciting Australian artist. She's toured with Panic at the Disco and she's got over 40 million streams globally. She's a very big deal. Please give it up for East. Now, how are you? Welcome to our set.
Thank you. I'm good.
Amazing. It's great to have you here. I want to talk about your brand new single, Talk Deep. Now, as I'm watching the video clip, I've got questions. I want to hear the anecdotes, but we'll start about what it's about and why you wrote it.
Okay. Well, the song is about meeting someone at a party and possibly the party's quite boring, but this person just like flips a coin and you're like, oh, suddenly it's not boring anymore. And you just hit it off and you have crazy chemistry. And yeah, this song is just like, I literally want to stay up all night and just get to know you and fuck all these other people. Let's just go upstairs, smoke a joint and yeah.
Like we're going upstairs? It's so interesting because when I hear that, I'm like, is the party boring so this person seems really exciting, or this person would be exciting generally and now you want to get to know them on a deeper level?
I think the party's less important in this situation. It's more so just like the chemistry between you and this person, but maybe it does help a little bit that you were bored to begin with.
That's it. What do you think chemistry is though? Because when I was watching the video clip, I'm like, obviously in those kind of environments, you think to yourself, are we having a vibe or is it just the low lighting and it's the cute music and I'm wearing very little clothing and now all of a sudden I feel like there's a vibe.
Yeah.
What would you say chemistry is?
I think there's different kinds of chemistry. So the chemistry that song talks about is a little bit like, yeah, there's a mood, there's some music, there's maybe some substances, like there's a lot of things that sort of played a role in creating the chemistry. But there are definitely other chemistries where it's purely just like an intellectual chemistry or, so I think you've got to be able to distinguish the different chemistries maybe.
Did you write the track recently?
Yeah, I wrote it probably in June. I think, which is like pretty recent to have it out now already. Because normally you like write a song and you sit with it for a year or two before it sees the light of day. So it's nice.
Really? It's like a 2-year process between you like formulating the idea or between like, I don't know, label stuff where you've got to wait and strategize and all that?
Totally. Yeah. Sometimes like the song will be finished and you have to wait like a year or two before, it actually comes out.
By the time that time comes, you're over it. You're like, I've written 1,000 songs since then. Like I want a new concept, a new feeling. So did something happen to like trigger this thought, or it's just, a general musing? Like, did you meet someone at a party, have great chemistry, write the song, or it's fiction?
Well, part of it's fiction. The party part was a little bit made up, but there was definitely someone that inspired that song. And it was like that connection of like, just enjoying their company a lot and being super attracted to them and just wanting to talk to them all night.
Spill the tea! You're like, I mean, the party didn't happen, but, there was some...
Nah, but, we had a good time, but, like, it's mates now, which is kind of, like, ideal.
And an interesting transition, though.
Yeah.
Do you do that though? Like when you're having just like life experiences, going out, seeing things, doing stuff, do you think to yourself, this would be a good song and I should write about it?
Sometimes that thought does come to mind, but typically I'm just more focused on being present in what I'm doing and what I'm experiencing. So I don't really like sit there like writing lyrics in my mind, but sometimes it's more so I'm like, wow, this feels like a movie. This is like a movie moment. And then I try and like take in all the details of what I'm experiencing, like, the lighting, the atmosphere. And then I find that often finds its way into my songwriting.
I want to talk about the video clip that also feels like a movie. So in case you haven't seen it, you kind of open up to a scene of like you walking into what would be this guy's home. There's a vibe. You're like, am I going in? Okay, I'm going in. We're doing this. You go into his room. You're sussing it out. There are posters. Hot. A vibe. Hot. He's sitting down on the bed. I'm like, is he going to proposition you? It's like so soon in the night.
Yeah.
And then he falls asleep. We've all been there before. Maybe we haven't. Just us. He falls asleep before you can continue chatting and vibing. Maybe it's late, whatever. But then something happens. Plot twist. East is mad. And then I don't want to incriminate you. So what did you do?
I killed him.
You killed him. And I want to understand before we like spill the rest of the video clip, the like motivation for killing him. It's because the conversation wasn't deep enough? Is it because he fell asleep? Like what happened there? And yeah, I want to get your vibe on that.
Well, I think it was purely because he fell asleep. And I was like, dude, I don't want sleep. Like, I just want to talk. I want to stay up all night. Why is this happening?
I want to talk deep. Now you're falling asleep. And like these scenes in which like there are like, you know, torture tools lined up against like the rim of this bath. And then you're like putting him in the bath with a head. It's a lot and it's hectic. Did you storyboard that yourself or did you work with someone to come up with that?
I had a friend of mine, Harry Deadman. So he directed the music video and I just gave him a clean slate because he's got the most like wonderful creative mind. So I was like, just listen to the song and send me your idea. And he sent me that idea and he was like, look, it's pretty kooky. Fair enough if it's a little too out there. But I just remember reading it and it took me by surprise and it made me laugh reading it. And I was like, that's cool. Let's just do it, you know?
And it's hectic. And it's one to remember too, because it really does follow like the format of a story. Like you're seeing like the beginning, the climax, the end, and you're like, damn, she really just killed a guy who didn't pay her attention. Same, you know, I get it. I also want to talk about like the evolution of the themes of your music, because coming from a track like Blowjob, where you're talking about how you want to connect with someone, but all he wants is like, you know, sex from you essentially. And then going to this energy where you're like, you know, I've met someone who I connect with now. I want to talk deep with them. I just want to get to know them on that level. Is that evolution like, did you meant to evolve it in that way? Is that just, you know, a representation of like who you were then, who you are now? Like talk me through the evolution of your songwriting a bit.
I think when it comes to like those comparisons, it is a case of, probably me growing up a little bit but also it just depends on the situation that you get yourself into. I think that if you like Blowjob is, about feeling like you're getting into this with someone because you have a connection, but then figuring out that they only want, you know, sex from you. It's I think it's just more an expectation thing. I went in with the wrong expectations and then it left me feeling quite used or empty. Whereas if you go into something with someone and you both have the same expectations of what it's going to be, it is like, I find it so easy just to like tap into that energy more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess it helps when two people are really consistent in their behavior and their actions and their words, as opposed to saying one thing and doing one thing. You're like, are we on the same page? Like, is this a thing? Is this not a thing?
Yeah.
And so obviously Talk Deep is track 8 of your new album.
Yeah.
How many tracks in total?
13.
13 tracks.
Yeah.
And what are some of the themes we're going to explore in that piece?
Well, the album is kind of like a documentation of my last year, really, which was kind of a difficult year, truthfully. It was like, there's themes of heartbreak and themes of, you know, feeling like you're kind of failing at everything you do and how you sort of, navigate that and how you pick yourself up from that. And so the album kind of has a bit of a narrative. It sort of starts off like being really committed to feeling like shit and being heartbroken. And then there's a point at the middle of the album where the like conversation starts to shift a little bit and it becomes more about, okay, I feel really low and I feel heartbroken and I don't feel very good about myself, but I know that I can change this. So it sort of, it kind of goes into a more positive realm by the end of the album.
And does that mirror how you were actually feeling at the time? Like feeling a bit depleted, then coming up and realizing that you can change the outcome of your future. And then are you at the end, like the positive space?
I am.
Oh, good. How do you think you got there? Because I feel like for a lot of creatives generally, so much of what you do is trying not to extract too much of yourself to make art. Like you want to maintain a sense of self and esteem and positivity. And so when you're writing about how you're feeling and commodifying it, it can be hard to kind of stay true and maintain what you said you were feeling at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like for me, it was always songwriting has always been a way for me to deal with it. It's almost like journaling or talking it out with someone. I've found that if I can write about my experiences, it makes it easier to move on. So yeah, I think this album was super like, what's the word, cathartic for me to make. And I feel weirdly removed from it now because I'm not in that space anymore, but which is a good thing. You know, it's nice to look back on it and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. But that's not where I'm at right now. And yeah.
And so when you eventually will perform a lot of these songs, do you feel like you need to, it kind of drags you back into that space of what you were feeling, or you're kind of consciously able to detach from, that's what I made in that time, and even when I sing it, I'm not attaching the same emotions to it as I did before?
I find it quite easy to remove myself from it because that can be a challenge. Like if you're writing about a certain time in your life that could have been traumatic or just really difficult, it can be this constant reminder of that happening in your life. But I don't know, for me it's more like reading like past journal entries,
right?
You know, and for me to see like how far I've come since writing that. So I'm still able to perform it and tap into the emotion behind the song, but it's not like emotionally draining for me.
It's a good distinction.
Yeah.
I want to get a clearer understanding of like how you got to this place now. So when did you start singing? When did you start, you know, putting together songs? Who inspired you? Like,
gosh.
let me know.
Well, I've always been singing. I probably started songwriting when I was about 12 or 13. And I actually signed my publishing deal when I was around that age as well.
Hold on. So you've always been singing, and granted, we all like hold a tune between the ages of 3 and 8. You know, we're singing in the shower, we're being too loud. But in that time, you developed a skill for actual singing and actual songwriting, and then signed a publishing deal at 12 or 13.
Yes.
Wait, so where did you grow up?
A lot of different places.
Okay.
I was born in South Africa.
Right.
And then moved to Dubbo from there, and then kind of spent time in like Newcastle, Maitland, and then Sydney for a bit, and Central Coast for a bit, and Tamworth even for a bit. That sucked.
Really? I went to the a festival in Tamworth. I thought it was a vibe. You know, there was an energy.
I don't know. I was like in my early teens when I lived there, and I was like, I need to get out of this town. Like I was going through my emo phase. You know, it wasn't the time for me to be there. Maybe when I'm in my 40s or 50s, I can see it happening. But
wait, so why did you move so much though at the time?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. Just my fam's just super nomadic, I guess, in that sense. And we've always just gone where the wind has blown, really. And
you were able to sustain like building your craft through like being displaced quite a bit. Was singing like, you know, a return to home kind of thing for you? Totally. Or just a hobby?
It was just kind of like something I always knew I could do. And music was always there, no matter where I found myself.
You've been described by heaps of people as being quite genreless. It's indie pop, it's indie, generally it's pop punk. Do you think that being sort of like moving around as a young person kind of makes you understand that being nomadic is also a gift? So your music gets to be nomadic quite as well, or is that not a relation at all?
I think probably like my music more stems from what I grew up listening to, more so than my environments.
Right.
Thankfully, otherwise I'd be a country artist.
A country, pop, indie rock. It could work.
It could, maybe. I mean, I'm not like putting a lid on it, but like I grew up listening to like Afrikaans folk music, and then also a lot of musical theatre because my mom's a drama teacher. So I grew up listening to like Barbara Streisand and things like that. And then, I don't know, like Eric Clapton. So there were all these like weird influences growing up. And then, I was in my early teens and I went through like the scene phase. I had like the red fringe.
Yes, you did.
Straightened it every day. It looked like crap.
Keep the ends real thin. Thin them out. As ratty and stiff as possible.
Yeah, that was me. Had a MySpace as well.
Yeah, you did.
You know how it is. And then went from like emo music to listening to folk and then hip hop. And I feel like I'm someone who's able to appreciate a lot of different things for different reasons. So I listen to a lot of different kind of kinds of music. And yeah, I definitely see those influences making its way into my own music.
And do you feel like you have freedom to really like infuse those influences, or now you kind of have to stick to a sound because you're popping off?
In the past, I've certainly felt pretty boxed in just from my own way of thinking about things, because I'm quite a like black and white sort of person typically. Right. So, but as I've gotten older, like I've seen the grey in things a little bit more. And yeah, this album that I just made, yeah, it's either going to be like a hot mess or it's just going to work beautifully and every song's just going to have its own life and its own story. You know, it's going to go either way.
Wait, why do you say that though?
Well, it's just like every song sounds different to the last.
Right.
You know, and there is a lot of different influences and sounds happening on this album. But I guess, you know, my voice ties it all together and the lyrical themes and content ties it all together.
You're like, oh, that's what I'm telling myself.
We'll see. But I kind of have the feeling it's an album that you're probably not going to like every song on the album.
Right.
But there's going to be a song or two that is like exactly what you need to hear. You know?
That's a good bet for most people. I think it's hard when, you know, you're told by an artist, like, this is it. Like, I made this for you, the fans. You're going to love it all. You're like, you know what? Track 1 through 12 weren't for me, but 13 really hit. You know? Now I feel like 2 out of 13 tracks, I can get with that.
Yeah.
It sounds awesome. Well, we'll see. We'll review it.
Okay.
Track by track.
Yeah, all right.
We've got some questions from the audience, which is always fun. The first one is from Shah, and she says, what advice would you give to young people who've met someone they'd like to talk deep with, but it's not reciprocated?
I think that you just need to move on, dog. And when you're young and you meet someone like that, it means so much to you. And it's like a big deal. And you kind of feel like you're never going to meet someone else like that again. But you literally will.
Like, not that special. Move on. You'll find 2 more where they came from.
Yeah. So I think just like see the importance in like keeping perspective and go meet some other cutie.
Move on is the advice. Do you think that like every person you connect with is capable of having like deep conversation? Because I find it's just not for everyone. Like sometimes I find that when I try and like pull it out of someone, it just gets into this weird territory where they start making up things to seem more deep than they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not everyone's cup of tea. But I mean, that's cool as well. I love just having banter with people and you just talk about, I don't know, anime or something like that. Like that's really fun too. There's like a time and a place for all different kinds of conversation.
Do you like anime?
I do like anime.
Name your 5 favorite. No, I'm not gonna do that.
Name 5 animes.
Go. Next question is from Tom. He says, love your style. Who influences your fashion?
I don't think I have like any huge influences. I just love the 80s, like the late 80s, early 90s. I love lots of color. Yeah, I guess take a little bit of inspiration from like skatewear or yeah, but I always like to describe my fashion as if like I'm homeschooled, which I was homeschooled. A homeschooler who's run away from Sunday school to join a pop punk band. That is how I would describe my fashion.
One more time, just homeschooler who's run away from Sunday school to join a punk band.
A pop punk band.
A pop punk band, distinction. Mm-hmm. Let's start with homeschooling. How long were you homeschooled for? Like your whole schooling life?
Yeah. Except for kindergarten. I went to kindergarten in Dubbo. Yeah. And I think I just hated it. I couldn't like be around people that much. I was like, I'm over these bitches.
Well, yeah. And at 5, you were like, you know what? It's not for me. Yeah. I have to move on. And so were you homeschooled by a family member or like, how did it work?
It was just kind of like textbook work. So you just sort of learn it yourself and teach yourself kind of thing. So I never had a tutor.
I don't think I've ever talked to someone who was homeschooled. Tell me everything. Did you have set lunch breaks every day? What was your favorite subject? How are you graded? Were you a good student?
No. It was so flexible. Like my mum would normally like set a certain amount of like work I had to get done per day, and it was up to me how long that would take me to do. Or so sometimes it'd get done in 2 hours and then I could just go off and do my own thing, or other days I'd meander a bit longer, so it would, you know, be a couple hours. But yeah.
At the time, did you have a presumption that everybody was homeschooled? Did you know there were like schooling institutions that you could be at?
Yeah, I knew school was a thing.
Just
Because like I did go to school for
Briefly,
kindergarten, so
yeah.
I knew that was a thing. But yeah, I didn't really feel a need to ever go to school, except for when I heard about school camps, and like I never got to go on a school camp. That kind of sucked for me as a kid.
There's
but
still time.
yeah, I've actually never gone camping, so I feel like I should.
Yeah, especially
you?
now. I have been camping.
Okay.
I won't say I'm the best at it, but I've definitely done it. The times that I have been, though, I think I was a little bit disillusioned by what the experience would be. So one time I went to like a really, let's just call it a fun farm party. But when we had gotten there, tents were set up for us and like there was catering. So I was like, this is wild.
Glamping.
There were like portaloos with wood grain and showers.
Okay.
So I was like, well, if this is camping, I get it. But that's not the case.
No.
I don't know. I feel like sleeping in the wilderness is not the issue, but it's everything else around the experience, like access to electricity, your showers, like safety. Do you want to get mauled by a bear? Maybe not. Wombats are wild. Should we consider that? How do we protect ourselves? So I'm just going to like stay on this side.
Yeah, okay. But you don't enjoy the adrenaline of it? Like, I could get attacked right now. What's my like response going to be to that? I
have terrible reflexes. So like
Okay.
if you were to like push the mug, like if you were to drop something, I'd be like, and freeze.
Okay, yeah.
I do
And
a
it
lot
would
of like,
fall to the ground. Yeah.
And then freeze.
Okay.
So I'm not the person for that, but there's still time.
So zombie apocalypse happens.
I
You're
have
not
a
the
strategy.
Oh. Okay.
Let's hear
You're
your
the
strategy
mastermind.
first. Zombie apocalypse happens. We're in the build set. What the alarms go off. Everybody's like, you know, freaking out. What are you doing? Quick! They're coming.
I guess you want to like block yourself off until they leave, right?
They're not going.
They're not going?
No.
But if they don't find you, they'll just assume there's no one there, so they'll leave. They're like, there's no food here, so let's go. Right? They're not just going to hang around.
Look, I don't want to say that theory is incorrect, but from the movies I've watched, the fictional movies I've watched, aren't zombies just like a bit, they're brain dead obviously, but they just don't have the logic to leave. So they'll just kind of like go into a dormant state and then like sound will trigger them back into being alive and feral. So if we locked ourselves in the set, there's no bathroom, there are no snacks. Is it temperature controlled?
Are there snacks?
Are there snacks? There are no snacks.
I've got snacks in my bum bag.
How much do you have to go around?
I've got a few almonds.
Okay. So what we've discovered is that you're not the person to hang out with when the apocalypse comes, but you'd be great for entertainment post-apocalyptic. We're rebuilding.
Yeah.
We're going down the long road. We need music, entertainment to keep our morale up. That's you.
Yeah. All right.
So the headline is East writes an apocalyptic album for homeschoolers who skip Sunday school to start a pop punk band.
Yeah. That's the target audience.
And scene. And when does the album come out?
It's not a set date yet, but next year, probably
What
around the middle of
season?
next year. I think a winter album.
A winter album.
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect for camping, one might say.
Really?
No, I was just trying to keep it going. I was segueing.
Yeah,
I was working.
Sorry, keep going.
I've got one more question for you before we wrap up. Can't talk about the apocalypse all day. What was it like touring with the likes of All Day, Mallrat and Amy Shark? Any great stories from being on the road?
Oh, wow. It was awesome. Especially like touring with All Day and Morat, because we've actually all done a tour together before, but I was playing in Japanese Wallpaper's band. So
What were you playing? What
I
instrument?
was doing like leads on a keyboard, tambo, and doing backing vocals. Yeah.
So you've been touring with other people before you started touring for yourself?
That was more just a one-off.
Right.
Gab was like, oh, like I really need a vocalist to go on tour with me. And I was like,
Hint, hint.
I'm like, I got nothing on this month. Let's go.
I'm free, thank you.
And then Japanese Wallpaper musical directs All Day now. So he was on the tour again in his band. So we'd all kind of done it together. So it was very special that just a bunch of homies got to travel around together and play shows.
So rare.
Yeah.
I hear the worst stories about touring, and this sounds like camp. You just went to camp as an adult.
Did I?
Touring is camp.
Yeah.
For the gifted and talented.
Oh,
It is.
so wholesome.
It is.
Oh.
Can you think of any like actual highlights from the tour? Like any sick shows, any cool stories? Did you get a mystery tattoo?
So I think this was in Adelaide, maybe. I went out, we just sound checked, and me, Japanese Wallpaper, and 2 of my bandmates went out for dinner. And we just went to like Sombrero, I think, or something like that. You know, we're just like, trashy burritos, let's go. And we're just like chilling in Sombrero. It's a really hectic night in the city. I feel like there was a game on or something. And we're the only people in there, and this dude just walks in with like half his hand is just like falling off. He'd like cut his hand, so it was like in pieces. And he's like wrecked. And he just like comes up to us and he's like stumbling. And he's just like, "Oh, guys, I've like cut my hand." And I was just looking at me and Gab and my 2 bandmates, and I was like, which one of us is going to be the one to step up if this becomes a situation? And I was like,
What was stepping up going to look like for you? Like wrapping up the hand, taking him
I
to the
think
hospital?
more like, dush, 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 you know, because he was kind of getting
Oh, he was agitated.
a little bit. Well, he was like weirdly lethargic, but then I feel like he was kind of at the point where he could kind of go either way.
Right.
And then he was like shoving his hand in all of our faces. And then my drummer was like, "Hey man, there's like no need to spread it around or anything." And I was like, "Oh,
not the best."
And then the dude goes, "I don't have AIDS or nothing."
Oh, no.
So that is what comes to mind when I think about that tour. I'm like, oh yeah, we went to Adelaide and this guy rubbed his bloody face in our hands.
I mean, that's half the zombie apocalypse training that you would have needed. So
Yeah.
maybe you are the right team member for us. We're still recruiting, so we'll get back to you. We'll call you. Don't call us. Well, thank you so much for coming to the studio. We really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Everybody, give it up for East, please. And make sure you stream Talk Deep.